Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Mesqua and this is my artifact analysis presentation for MAE 670. To begin, I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I am a special education teacher. I currently work supporting students in the elementary school level, grades 3 through 5. I've been teaching now for 6 years, so I'm about to start my 7th year. And throughout my career, what's kind of really fascinating me about the field is the amount of collaboration that goes on. So here's my school team. I love working with them, service providers, instructional assistants. I feel like it really has made this experience really rewarding to share it with them. And I've also tried to find ways to have to create more inclusive opportunities in the school setting. So some of those are reflected up here with field trip opportunities that I've found for some of my students to engage in, creating sensory or safe zones for students during assemblies, pep rallies, or carnival events. I found that having those spaces for them has really helped them become part of the greater community. Throughout this presentation, I will be talking about how I've met all the MAE program learning outcomes. So I'll be discussing PLO 1, 2, 3, and 4, and how I met those PLOs at an introductory level, at a developing level, and at a mastery level. By aligning them with artifacts. And this table briefly describes the courses that I took, the PLOs, and the alignment that I have aligned depending on the artifact that I'm presenting with each PLO and each level, so IDM. To begin with, up here, you will see aligns with on every slide. So the PLO it aligns with and at what level. And then I'll go ahead and begin my breakdown. On this side of the slide, you will find that I've added some screenshots of those assignments and just some images that kind of relate to it. So let's begin. The first course I took at my program at National was MAE 610, so Practitioner Research Study. The artifact that I've selected for this class has been the Source Practitioner Research Study, and the topic was impacts of social emotional learning programs on special education, and I have aligned it to PLO 3 at an introductory level. To share a little bit about this assignment, I was tasked with developing a practitioner research question and then finding a peer-reviewed a journal, whether it's a study, to create kind of a literature review to tie it to the question and really start to find ways to apply practitioner research a little bit more to specific content, or I would say almost like problems I see in the classroom, so that it's a little bit more tied to my real world experience. Throughout this assignment, I was able to use a peer-reviewed study to connect evidence-based practices with a specific practitioner research question. I was also able to demonstrate that I can provide insight into strategies that support diverse learners in both traditional and technological enhanced contexts. And again, this is at an introductory level. So I was able to present findings in a practical, accessible manner for immediate classroom relevance. This assignment really was the beginning to my experience with using kind of like action research, really finding areas that relate to my practice, looking up literature in the area, seeing what research is saying and how I can apply to practical solutions that I can apply into my classroom. The next class I took was ECE 650. And for this class, I have selected the Artifact Inspired Professional Growth Plan, and I have tied it to PLO 4 at introductory level. I apologize, the recording bar is kind of on top, so I'm going to have to take a minute there. And then for this artifact, it was kind of a culmination assignment that was done at the end of the course after having learned a little bit more about early childhood education programs, studied about how the field is really professionalizing, and kind of deciding my role as an educator and where I stand with early childhood education. So it really challenged me to reflect on my understanding of early childhood education and consider how I can continue to grow in this field. Throughout the assignment, I stated a commitment to advocating for the importance of these programs while also continuing to stay informed about local initiatives and policies that impact early childhood education. So I was able to demonstrate that I met PLO 4 at an introductory level because it was really a reflection piece that I took after studying a lot about the area, looking at research, looking at studies, seeing kind of what is going on in the field of early childhood education, and then considering my role as an educator. So I was able to reflect my reflection was informed by current understandings of early childhood education, aligning with research-based approaches in learning. I also highlighted the ethical responsibility that I have to be an advocate and the importance for these programs. And it was at an introductory level because I was able to apply foundational reflective strategies appropriate for my early career at the time, beginning level professional practice. So again, this assignment challenged me to consider the impact that I can have in early childhood. While I might not teach TK or in the preschool setting, my children do, or my students just do benefit a lot from these programs. So I need to consider how I can continue to be an advocate in this field. And that has kind of been demonstrated through this assignment. My next course in the program was ITL 604, which is Learners and Learning Part 1. So this is like a Part 2 course. I did take that course, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. So for this course, I have selected the artifact, the personal identity analysis, and I've aligned this one with PLO 4 at a developing level. So a little bit about this assignment. This assignment required me to examine kind of multifaceted elements that shape who I am as an individual or my identity, and how these might influence the way I interact with the world. So the assignment was broken down into 6 activities, which was an identity web, a cultural iceberg, stereotypes, hidden biases, personal assets and supports, and then a final synthesis, which was a video that culminated the entire experience. Throughout this assignment, I was encouraged to seek out kind of like some of those hidden biases that I might have that I wasn't aware of that impact my role as an educator, some stereotypes that I have kind of taken in that were applied to me growing up and how they might still be affecting me as an educator or kind of as a person in general, but I took it one step to reflect it as an educator. And again, how now knowing this about myself, I will move forward as an educator to kind of be a little bit more reflective and considerate of how my own upbringing might impact the way I support my students and the families that I work with. So this assignment shows that I met PLO 4 at a developing level because I was able to do ongoing self-examination through structured activities, fostering intentional reflection practices. So again, some of these activities were research-based with the cultural iceberg, the identity web. For the hidden biases, I had to take a series of surveys that were like very fast moving and I had to choose between images. So it was kind of like a research opportunity. I was able to take everything and then really consider what the experience was telling me and how it might be impacting me now as an adult and furthermore as an educator. So it demonstrated that I was able to kind of like synthesize everything and continue in my commitment to pursuing similar reflective opportunities in the future that demonstrate a plan for continued growth. And this assignment kind of moved beyond the introductory level because I was able to kind of demonstrate awareness by applying structured reflections to anticipate its impacts on my teaching practice, indicating growth towards more advanced reflective practices in the future. I did take this class early on in MAE 604, and it is still an assignment that I think about frequently, even now. I just continue to say, what are some of the ways that my perspective is impacting the way that I am approaching a situation? And I've noticed that when I'm able to do that, I've kind of stay a little bit more grounded in the way that I interact with others. So it definitely has been something that has shaped the way that I consider moving forward and also my professional, like the ethics that I hold now that I know that I might have these ways of thinking that might not be similar to someone else. So it's just continuing to hold myself accountable. So again, it shows that I did meet PLO 4 at a developing level. For the next course, it was ECE 655, so it's inclusive ECE practices. And for this assignment, I have selected the lesson plan that I created during this course and an activity grid that is tied to that lesson. So it is kind of like a 2-part assignment, and I have aligned it with PLO 2 at an introductory level and at a developing level. So a little bit about this assignment. I designed a lesson for students ages 5 through 6, which was focused on visual discrimination and data skills. So students were kind of were tasked with sorting clothing by color and then using a pictograph, so turn it into a pictograph so that we can really see, how many red shirts we had, how many blue shirts or orange or purple shirts. So it was a quick way to sort and also add a little bit more of data collection there. Um, Throughout the lesson, I incorporated opportunities for differentiation and embedded accommodations to support diverse learners. So after I created the lesson, I took it another step further, which was completing an activity grid that further adapted the lesson for students with specific needs that included learning disabilities, autism, or visual impairments, and also English language learners. So it really broke down how I would differentiate the lesson for each of these students. So again, it was at an introductory level because I did begin by writing the lesson kind of like a little bit more general. I did include accommodations there, but then I further developed the lesson in the second part where I individualized it a little bit more. So this one is tied to PLO2 at an introductory and development team level because I did consider the developmental level of the students, which was 5 to 6 years of age. I adapted the lesson for students with diverse needs. I incorporated differentiated opportunities. The activity grid further personalized the activity to ensure accessibility for all students. There was a formal form of assessment to make sure that students met the goal, which was their ability to create the pictograph. And it shows that I met this PLO at an introductory level because I was able to apply foundational strategies for differentiated assessment, and also at a developing level because I was able to extend the learning design through systemic accommodations and a customized activity grid for specific learners. So again, there was a little bit more differentiation going on there towards that second half of the assignment. The next class I took in my program was ITL 606, which is Learners and Learning Part 2. Again, I had previously shared the first part of the course. This is the second. For this assignment, I have selected the instructional approach, the teaching assignment, and I have aligned it with PLO2 at a mastery level. So a little bit about this assignment. This assignment allowed me to deepen my understanding for student strengths by considering an assets-based mentality. So instead of looking at students as having needs or deficits, it's really switching my mindset to say that I will be focusing on assets that they have. So current present levels, current skills they have so that we can continue to develop those. And then this assignment was provided a little bit more real world experience because I was able to use 3 students that I was working with at the time to really consider their assets and how I would develop an activity to really support them. So I considered it included a lot of intentional planning. So I considered their English language proficiency, cultural and linguistic funds of knowledge. Oh, sorry, there's a firework that just went off. Prior experiences and behavioral expectations and supports that ensure the lessons built on their unique assets. So throughout this lesson, throughout this artifact, I apologize for the car alarm going off on the background, how it aligns to PLO2 at a mastery level, because I was able to deepen the understanding of individual students using a strength or asset-based mentality, and really look at what their learning profiles were, what they were capable of doing, their language levels, their cultural and linguistic backgrounds, and really tailor a learning experience that was centered around what they can do. I was also able to create a personalized lesson. So even throughout the activity that I created, I was able to find different ways to differentiate the lessons based on those 3 specific students. Again, a lesson would have been the greater classroom, but really considering those 3 students' needs. And they're kind of students that I would say I had a little bit more of a challenging time supporting in the classroom. I used assessments to inform the ongoing instructional program I was developing, and really using student responses throughout the activity to kind of like gauge my next steps. This assignment showed that I was able to use sophisticated integration of learning characteristics and kind of customize those learning principles to embed strategies that were really responsive to those students' needs. And I demonstrated intentional and reflective practices because I was able to really consider all the students had to offer using that asset-based mentality and really individualize this lesson, this program, right, so that it was designed for them. So again, it shows that I did meet PLO2 at a mastery level. The next course I took was ECE 653. So this is best early childhood education teaching practices. And for this lesson, I also selected a lesson plan that I developed, and I've aligned it with PLO2 at an introductory level. So a little bit about this lesson, I designed it. I was tasked to do kind of like a cross content lesson that could be used in my special day class. So for this one, the age group was about 7 to 8 years of age, and the lesson was centered on a writing that followed a read aloud to the story If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. So students were tasked with writing their own version of the story, which was If You Give a Student a Pencil. The lesson was standard based, so I did intentionally write it around some of the writing standards for that age group, and then also considered some of my students' diverse learning needs, embedded modifications and accommodations throughout the lesson to really make sure that it was accessible for all the learners. So again, this lesson shows that I was able to meet PLO2 at an introductory level because I was able to consider the diverse learning styles when planning the lesson, right? There's a lot of need in my SDC classrooms. I was able to take that into consideration. I was able to incorporate modifications and accommodations that support students with different levels and different needs. I have students who are nonverbal, so really finding ways to give them opportunities to participate there. Some students who do require sentence frames, so making sure that those were embedded in the lesson as well. I was able to gauge, there was an assessment piece I was able to gauge if they understood by their ability to complete the task. And then students were able to again have access to those differentiated activities. So it shows that I met this PLO at an introductory level because I was able to apply foundational strategies to design inclusive standards, design inclusive for standards-based instruction. And I began integrating customizing the lesson and the assessment so that it was accessible to all students. And it did show that I'm able to do intentional planning on my end to consider all of the students' needs. So again, this artifact demonstrates how I was able to meet PLO2 at an introductory level. Okay, and then the next course I took was ECE 654 Collaborative Partnerships. For this course, I have selected the advocacy position paper, which the topic was the importance of inclusive classrooms in early childhood education. And I have aligned it to PLO3 at a developing level. So a little bit about this assignment. I wrote a research-based paper on early childhood education on a topic that I'm very passionate about. So I was able to examine current policy and literature to explore the benefits of inclusive classrooms and the critical role that educators play in fostering this inclusivity. So throughout the paper, I was able to analyze literature, develop my own response, and really consider how it impacts not only early childhood education, but my practice and my kind of the role I have as an educator. So it shows that I was able to meet PLO3 at a developing level because I was able to apply research-based approaches by analyzing current policy and literature on inclusive classrooms and used it to inform a perspective on the instructional practices and in general the greater area of early childhood education. I explored the role that I hold as an educator and the responsibility I have in creating inclusive classrooms and how I can directly impact that in my own classroom, in my own campus, in my own school, and really consider practical systems that can be implemented to enhance teaching and learning. I was also able to demonstrate that I can discuss strategies and apply them across traditional and digital contexts by supporting inclusivity in varied learning environments. And it moved beyond the introductory level to a developing level because I was able to integrate research findings with a practice-oriented consideration. Again, it's not just conducting research, it's really thinking about research that has meaning in my own life, in my own classroom that I can apply. And I demonstrated the growing ability to connect practitioner research to the real world. So again, just being very intentional with what I was doing with the topic, how it applies to my practice, and the role I hold, right, as an educator, not just in the classroom, but in the greater good, like how I'm able to advocate for everyone. And I found that some of these classes really did teach me that, there it is a partnership, and that I do hold a role and a responsibility to that. And using research and literature out there, I've been able to use it to inform my practice a little bit better. Um, for my program, I also did complete some of the MAE pathway modules. So for this one, I did receive 9 units. So you'll see that I have selected 2 artifacts to reflect this. So I have selected the pathway 5, which is SEL and empathy, and I have aligned it with PLO 1 at an introductory, developing, and mastery level. So it is 3 that I'm showing how I've met there. So I will explain a little bit about how I believe it ties to this, but a little bit about the unit. In this pathway or this unit, I was able to explore social emotional learning through the lens of empathy, and really learn more about what empathy is, how it's a foundation to emotional intelligence, and the ability to feel and express empathy is a critical component to developing those SEL skills in a school setting. This pathway provided me an opportunity to engage with a variety of learning methods, and also use technology to deepen that understanding. So the lessons were kind of introducing the topic. So here you'll see that I did a lot of, like, there was like an online lesson that I had to complete to really learn about the topic. I had to demonstrate mastery throughout the unit by completing a series of assignments that was showing that I was understanding the content. I did receive a certificate at the end of it. But the nice thing was too that I was able to develop that skill of learning about empathy and start to create resources that I can use in the classroom or share with my colleagues on a little bit more on how to teach empathy in school. So I developed a Padlet that I would be able to share with educators, and it included videos and points for discussion that they can use in their own classroom. Again, something that I'm using in my classroom to teach during that social skills time that I'm working with students in. And then a step further, where I was able to kind of show that mastery, was teaching a lesson using that harmony curriculum on empathy. So one of the ones was positive self-talk, talking about how we all belong, and kind of show students a little bit more about inclusivity. So the really cool thing about this is that the lesson broke it down by themes, points of discussion. It included a digital book that I was able to read with my students, series of activities, home connections they can use. So again, it really required me to have a better understanding of empathy and how to use those SEL activities and framework to be able to teach it. So throughout the unit, I not only was introduced to the topic, I was continuing to develop resources, but I also was able to take it a step further and actually apply it into my classroom. So at an introductory level, I was able to explore digital tools like Padlet to enhance instruction and resource sharing. Again, I also gained a foundational knowledge of empathy. At a developing level, I was able to really use the resources, not only for myself, but to share it with others, and really apply those digital tools in the classroom or explore the curriculum, which was online. At a mastery level, I was not only able to continue to share that technology, but now I was also integrated into my classroom. So I was able to integrate those videos that I had pulled through, kind of lead those discussion points in my own classroom. And I was also able to create activities in the classroom using that harmony curriculum that students could engage in learning a little bit more about empathy. So again, it shows that I met PLO 1 at an introductory, developing, and mastery level, because I was not only able to use instructional approaches, but also using those learning tools or those digital tools to further teach students about empathy using the SEL frameworks. And then for the second piece to this class, so again, it was 9 units. I'm doing 2 artifacts. I selected pathway 8, which is SEL problem solving. And for this one, I have also tied it to PLO 1 at an introductory, developing, and mastery level. A little bit about this pathway. I was able to explore social emotional learning through the lens of problem solving, which involves strategies to address cognitive and physical challenges. These challenges include resolving social and emotional conflicts that may arise in school communities. Similar to the last module, I was introduced to the topic. I was reading literature in the area. This is about a blog that I had to read about how can playful assessments tell us about how things are working in the classroom. Again, it wasn't only like blogs, but I also read studies that were embedded into the unit. I had to complete a series of trainings on problem solving and demonstrate that I was understanding the topic by completing a series of activities. So that here's one on cooperative learning. And at the end of that, I also was able to receive a certificate saying that I did have knowledge in the area. And similar to the last one, I was developing tools like a Padlet to teach students a little bit, not only students, but to teach adults in education about how we can use SEL framework to work on problem solving. So I embedded some videos that can be shared with students. And these were a little bit more for like the upper grades age range, and some talking points that educators can use to have these discussions in the classroom. I was also able to, similar to the last one, use the Harmony curriculum to teach a lesson on problem solving. And it also had a story that went along with that unit. So we kind of read the story together, and it was nice to have a story, not like an actual scenario going on in the classroom, because we all were really able to work together to see how we can help the character in the story with the problem she was having. So again, this pathway showed that I was able to meet PLO 1 at an introductory, developing, and mastery level, because I was able to develop foundational understanding of SEL problem solving, and using some of those digital resources that were available. For developing, I was able to take it a step further and develop actual resources and tools that my colleagues could use, that I can use in the classroom, and find ways to embed them into the classroom. And at a mastery level, again, it not only went beyond creating these digital tools, but actually implementing them and demonstrating the ability to integrate digital tools using the SEL framework, instructional strategies to create a comprehensive and technology enhanced learning experience. So again, it's really using the online unit that I had access to while completing these pathways to work with my students. And I use technology not only for the students, but also for my own professional collaboration when working with colleagues. And I think in general, the way the pathways worked for all of them, I've really found ways to embed those social emotional learning activities in my own classroom, because that's something that I'm very passionate about, finding ways to differentiate that instruction so that my students in an SDC setting can access it. And I found that with the Harmony curriculum and kind of like the learning that I was able to do through the pathway, I felt very comfortable in that subject where I was able to take the curriculum and differentiate it. So I definitely do feel that it shows that I met PLO 1 at an introductory, developing, and mastery level. And the final course in my program has been MAE 670. And for this one, I have selected 2 assignments. I selected the practitioner research proposal and the artifact analysis to demonstrate that I've met PLO 3 and 4 at a mastery level. So for PLO 3, I am aligning it with the practitioner research study. This was an assignment where I had to develop, well, I had already developed a practitioner research question. I had explored literature in the area, and now I was kind of putting it all together to develop a research proposal. So really considering that literature, what it was saying, and use it to guide next steps for me to be able to conduct that own research. So it shows my ability to structure a study that could directly inform instructional strategies across varied learning environments. So again, it was not just me reading the research, it was actively applying it to conduct future research using that field. And I demonstrated the integration of rigorous research practices with a clear focus on informing and improving my instruction, right? My own teaching practice. So again, it shows that I not only actively participating in this research, but now I am able to take that research, analyze it, synthesize, what are the implications it's saying in the field, and really apply it to something that I can incorporate, or I can work to create and see if I can do my own studies, right? If I can do my own research. So in general, I found that activity to be very informative, but also really show that I am able to have that, that experience now that I saw what research was showing in the area, find one that I felt that was appropriate to, or one that I felt that I was really passionate about, and develop the timeline for it, right? The introduction, do an introduction, the participants, the methods, the measures, really consider all aspects of research and how I would go about conducting my own research. So again, I feel like it demonstrates I met PLO 3 at a mastery level. And the next one was the artifact analysis presentation, which is this presentation that I'm doing right now, which showcases how I'm able to align coursework and learning experiences that I've completed and documented throughout my MAE program. I feel that this presentation itself, demonstrates my ability to meet PLO 4 at a mastery level. Because it's definitely a reflective opportunity, a reflective practice that I'm doing right now, demonstrating everything I've learned, using advanced reflection on learning and how it is continuing to impact my professional growth. I have used kind of like the research in the area to really align it to these PLOs. So I've selected artifacts that are tied to evidence-based practices and research-supported approaches in education. In regards to professional ethics, I've highlighted work that aligns with the ethical responsibilities in teaching and learning that I hold, and that I will continue to improve on or advocate for or be a part of as an educator. There's definitely been a clear pathway that I've demonstrated for continued growing, right? I know that this program has just been the beginning for me. But I really have to continue to take everything that was learned here and continue it to inform the way I go about my educational career. And it definitely shows that mastery level again, because I was able to demonstrate a comprehensive evidence-based reflection connecting research, ethics, and growth to support all 4 PLOs. In general, I feel like this program has really helped me become a better educator. So a little bonus here, I feel like it has not only shown me how to do meaningful research or explore research in the area, but use it to develop my practice, use it to develop these ideas, these perspectives for me to advocate and apply them to the field, apply these strategies into the classroom, apply this ability to advocate for my students, and really continue to have that opportunity for growth and reflection, and know that I, as an educator, need to continue to challenge myself to make sure that I am staying, I'm staying grounded and really remembering the reason why I teach. I do want to say thank you, and I appreciate everything that National University has able to do, and the professors and the team that I've worked with. Thank you for listening to my presentation.